Thank you for listening to the Bjj Break Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to episode 133 of the Bjj Break Podcast. I'm Gary, and I'm here with my co-host, partner in crime, BJJ Black Belt, Byron Jabara. How are you, Byron?
Hi, Gary. I'm doing great. Excited about Tim Cartmell being on our show.
How long did you say he's been training again, Byron, starting with Chinese martial arts?
Since 1972, when he was a kid.
Man. So if my math is good, that would be 40 years. That's incredible right there.
Yeah, and he did Chinese martial arts for a long time in China. He'll tell stories about that for us, or to us. And then he found Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and just fell in love with it and went with that, went in deep with that. So he's got a lot of different ideas about, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then his lessons learned from the Chinese martial arts and just the way it all works together and what he's doing. So a very interesting guy to talk to. So really excited to bring you guys this interview today.
Yep, so stay tuned. Do not miss that part. And so you don't miss any parts, definitely get on our email list. Basically, we have a link on our show notes. Put your name and email address in there. We will get you out a link to our show each and every week, and that way you'll never miss one. Easiest way, so you'll never forget. And as we say all the time, our disclaimer, we do not load your inbox up with spam. You will not get any spam. The only spam you might get would be the food spam, and that's if we decided to have a spam drive, which we're not. So you won't get any spam, and we don't sell your name. So definitely get on our email list and never miss a show.
Yep. Gary vetoed the idea of doing a spam drive this year, but maybe next year, he said.
Yeah, we'll probably have one sooner or later. Yeah, we can give one away with a patch.
There we go. We'll talk about the gi patches in a little bit, but I do want to talk about if you want to interested in supporting the show, look on the show notes. There's ways to do that, but the easiest way would be to check out our audiobook. And don't just do it to support the show. Hopefully, it will help you out. If you're in your first year of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we have an audiobook called Your First Year of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And it's really just me talking to you for about 2.5 hours about what to expect, what you go through, the ups and downs you're going to experience. And the overall goal of this audiobook is to keep you training and kind of help smooth out some of the bumps in this road to make your first year a little bit easier. And I really think if we can get more people through that first year, get the jiu-jitsu like more of a way of life and get it into what they do, we'll have more people doing this sport long term.
Yep, and one of the things that you always have to worry about when you first start is choosing a good quality gi. And I know Byron's been working with our sponsor, Fuji, and I'll let Byron talk about the Fuji Sakai gi.
Yep, just got the Fuji Sakai gi. It's been a little while now. I've got it over a month, and I've been wearing it pretty much when I do gi jiu-jitsu. And I'm loving it. It fits great. It's comfortable. It washes and dries very easily, and it looks sharp. So check it out. I put a video on our YouTube channel, or you can go to fujisports.com, check out the Sakai gi. It's got a cool little imprint of a globe on the inside of it there. I plan on this will be my travel gi when I stop wearing it all the time, here locally. But this is going to be my go-to travel gi. I think it's going to be outstanding for that purpose, and any it's competing it whatever you want to do. It's a gi I'm quite happy with. So it's called Fuji Sakai. There'll be links to it in the show notes, which will probably be in your inbox.
Ooh, I like that one.
Gary always can appreciate a nice little throwback to something else we talked about today.
Yeah, it's the hardest part about doing the show is sometimes trying to segue into the next part or next section that you're doing. So, I appreciate it when Byron comes up with a good one like that. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yep, and I like to write that down as a quote, as Byron came up with a good one like that. I put that as a quote, put that up, printed that off, and it's in my office right here. But not time for that quote. We got a quote of the week here, Gary, from Demian Maia.
I actually think Demian Maia's quote is going to trump your quote, Byron.
Good. I hope so. And actually, it was your quote about me, so that's why I like it so much. But this quote, I'm going to read it as it's written, and some of the grammar's not quite right, but it doesn't really matter. You'll get the message. It starts off in mid-sentence. It says, "Look, he carry all my weight." That's another theory of jiu-jitsu. When I rest, I should put him to work. So I don't get tired, and he get tired. He spend energy. So basically, Dave, you're rolling with Demian Maia. He's relaxing. He's putting all his weight on me and smash. I haven't rolled with him before, but he's putting his weight on this person he's training with, and all his weight's on him. The weight is free energy, but not for the bottom person. They're needing to spend energy, probably a lot of it, to just to get space, to breathe, to function. So, very interesting concept of jiu-jitsu. This is a theory, but make him carry your weight so you don't have to.
Yeah, it's never fun training with that guy who's got such heavy top pressure, even like Demian says when he's resting. And the one guy I train with that probably has most top pressure is you, Byron. And Byron, he doesn't weigh much. Probably, what would you say you weigh? 260, 270? No, Byron, what are you, about 160?
I'm 84 pounds, Gary. I've lost a lot of weight.
80, okay.
No, about 170, yeah.
When Byron gets on top of you, it's a nightmare. It's side pressure. It's just incredible, and that's exactly what happens. I'm carrying all this weight. Byron's really worked on that and figured out how to put all his weight on top of me or whoever he's going with, and that's something he's really concentrated on. And what it does is, first of all, you're trying to first get a little bit of space just so you can breathe. You're wasting a ton of energy trying to get that space, and then you're trying to get out and you're not getting out, and it's just going right back to square one. You start getting beat mentally. And Byron, you're probably the one guy who really smashes me like that. So I know exactly how that person underneath Demian Maia feels.
Well, Gary, I'm glad you're able to train with a guy like me. No, it's I remember the time I think I was a purple belt. I might have been a brown belt rolling with Renato Tavares. I could he had me in side control, and it was kind of just disorienting. He's pushing my face, away from him and stuff, and I can't see. And I don't know if I asked him to stop or not, but I think I said. I think I did stop it because I couldn't breathe, and I said, I thought for real somebody was pushing down on his back to make him heavier because I'm not a big guy. He's smaller than me by a good number, but he was just smashing me like he weighed 300 pounds, and I thought for sure somebody was playing a joke on me. They were pushing on Renato's back, and as I get crushed underneath him, and no, just him, and that was probably more than weight. It was probably also a squeezing pressure as well, but he was very relaxed, and I was to the point of I'm looking at tapping or at least seeing what's going on here? Are you guys playing a joke on me? Is this even real? That much pressure? It's incredible.
That's a good time to fake injury.
That's a good plan. I didn't think about that.
Oh, I do it all the time.
Yeah, your leg always cramps up when it's convenient, Gary.
Yep, always. Mostly it cramps up when I'm on the offense, so I can't. I guess I need to take a class in that. Yeah,
you got to switch up when it cramps, or if you're going to fake it anyway, don't fake it while you're on offense, Gary. That's been one of your biggest mistakes you've been making.
Oh, okay. Thank you for the advice.
So that's our quote from Demian Maia, and basically it boils down to make them carry your weight. You could relax, and they'll have to work very hard to deal with your weight. So it's a very good quote.
Byron, I think it's time we go on to the article of the week, and this week we have a good one from Juju's BJJ blog, a new blog. We have not used this one before, so thank you, Juju. This week's article that we got from April 5th, 2016 is called "The Dangers of I'll Do Jiu-Jitsu When," and I think we've all seen that. I'll do jiu-jitsu when I've lost more weight. I'm in better shape after I move. Those conditional clauses, it can easily get you out of doing jiu-jitsu for a day, which is always easy to come up with the excuses. But I think once you do go, you're always happy. But the big thing is we want people to do jiu-jitsu. Boy, that's a tongue twister.
Yeah, it's an interesting article, and it's an article that's coming out of a lot of honesty. Clearly, the author is having trouble with motivation, really, and in the long term, we're all going to deal with that. We'll experience times when, I don't really feel like training right now, or this is going on, or I'm not quite ready for that. But I think one of the key things about avoiding this type of a thing is what you're getting out of jiu-jitsu. Like, what's it really doing for you? Are you living a healthier lifestyle? Are you eating better because you're motivated? Are you hanging out with your friends on the mat? Like, there's a lot of things that jiu-jitsu will do for you. Remember that. And then also, like, I have more difficulty with motivation for exercise when I have like a goal that's really difficult to reach. And it's like, man, like if I'm going to go run 2 miles and I want to try to do it at a really fast pace, it's hard to be motivated to do that. But if I just want to go out there and jog a good 2 miles and keep up the pace, I could do that. I don't have to try to beat yesterday's time. And then that, to me, like, just go do it. Just try it. Like, if you're at jiu-jitsu because maybe, you're losing motivation because people are beating you that used to not beat you, don't worry about it. Like, don't let that bother you so much. Just go train and be happy that they're figuring things out for themselves. You'll do that pretty soon yourself. But you're going to give yourself a lot of excuses. But if you're going there and having a good time, most of the excuses can be overcame.
Yeah, I mean, Byron, that's some of the best advice I've heard. I mean, just have fun. Don't worry about it. And some people may not think I take jiu-jitsu so serious, which, I do think I take it serious. But my goal every time is just to have fun. That's my goal for jiu-jitsu, is to have fun. I don't care about winning this, winning that. I enjoy jiu-jitsu. And if I'm not having fun, I'm not going to do it. And I have fun. Like you were talking about, the friends you make. The guys and girls I train with, all great partners. We have a good time. We work hard, but we have fun. And then, like you said, the health benefits. I guarantee you, anybody who trains jiu-jitsu knows numerous people who have lost 50, 60 pounds. They may have been on blood pressure medicine before. Now they're, training for 2 hours straight. They're out running, 5 miles. There's just so many all-around benefits. But, all those benefits, like, just keep my head clear, keep me happy. And just from having fun, being healthy, and it's like a big game of chess match. It's like a game I can play as I get older. I don't know. I just love it. And every time I train, like, the rest of my day is better just because I'm so happy. I just had so much fun.
Yeah. So I'm reading this article here, and I recommend that you go check it out. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. But one of the excuses here is it takes 45 minutes to get there. That is a chunk of time, Gary. And
that is definitely a chunk of time.
And that would, you go 3 times a week. That adds up pretty quick to be in a lot of time. Try to make the drive a little funner. You can listen to a podcast on the way out there, maybe.
Ooh, good one.
Have some fun listening to music, or maybe you can carpool with somebody, and that'll kind of change things up for you. But once you get there, you're there. So make the most out of that time that you're there. Don't play around, and don't, like we're saying, have fun. But you spent the time driving. If you're there for an hour and a half, don't be there for an hour and 20 minutes and then not get anything out of the last 10 minutes. Be there motivated the time that you're there, because you've already earned the drive. You already spent that time. Get the most out of the time on the mat, because it's valuable, because it's not across the street for you. So that's just,
and I mean, if the drive's 45 minutes each way, you probably can't go every day. And if somebody's telling you got to train every day, and it's really not in your time, man, train twice a week. If you can get there twice a week, and like Byron said, you're checked in the whole time, you're going to get better. You're going to have fun. So do what you can do, but find a way to make it.
Yeah, a good instructor, and I'm trying to call you a bad instructor, but will understand that you have a life outside of jiu-jitsu. If you are coming at a place where you do have a life, if you're going to try to win worlds this year, you probably don't have much of a life outside jiu-jitsu. But if you're coming to train casually and it's a 45-minute drive, they should understand that you're not there every night of the week, and they shouldn't really harass you about that. They're happy to see you when you're there. Thanks for coming out, that sort of thing, versus you missed it on Monday. Well, I have a life. Maybe you have kids that had something, or something at work comes up. We have life off the mat, and instructors know this, and it's just part of being a good business person and running a school. You understand people are going to miss some days, but don't keep making excuses. Don't get in the habit of making excuses for yourself why you can't make it. Get in the habit of going, and then it's easy to go, because it's just a habit. You're just doing what you do every Monday or every Wednesday, whatever. It's what you do. Habits are easy to maintain because it doesn't take any actual willpower to do them, because it's just what you're going to do. It takes, so make it a habit to go.
Yep, and I like she gives a little screenshot of a text she had with her black belt instructor Diego, and she says, "I think I'm dying." Diego, why? She's like, "I'm so sore," and he laughs and he says, "Come to train, you will feel better." LOL. That is true. A lot of times you're sore, you get on the mat and blood starts flowing, and you'll start feeling better. So when you have an instructor that will call you or text you or email you, it's going to make it that much easier to get there.
Yeah, instructors and teammates. If someone's missing, you're a teammate. Get a hold of them and see what's happening. Maybe a little bit more motivation to get them in there that next time. But we'll put links to this article on the show notes. You can check it out.
Juju's blog.
All right, I think it's time for our interview with Tim Cartmell. He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
In the 80s, he started every match with a flying armbar. One day, he was running late for an open mat, his car wouldn't start, and he was able to start it too with a flying armbar. With a gentle sweeping motion, he can rock any crying baby to sleep.
I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the Bjj Break Podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
All right, my friends, I'm happy to bring Tim Cartmell to the Bjj Break Podcast. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tim has a lifelong experience with martial arts. He's studied some Chinese martial arts, and he also has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But there's a lot more to you than that. Can you kind of give us a little personal history so we can get to know you better, Tim?
Okay. I started studying Chinese martial arts in 1973, I believe, when I was a kid. And studied for about 12 years until I was out of college. And then I moved to the Republic of China, and I lived there for 11 years. And I studied various styles of Chinese martial arts and competed in Sanda, the Chinese kickboxing tournaments. And then I came back to the States in the mid-'90s and started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think I started it was right about the time of the first UFC, just before it, probably 90, maybe 93 or 4. And been practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu ever since. And I eventually got my black belt from Pueblo Luciano.
Wow, busy guy, and like I mentioned before, a lifetime of martial arts. Why did you move to China?
To study martial arts. So I wanted to go. I'd been doing Chinese martial arts since I was a kid, and so it was kind of my big focus. And I'd read a lot about it, the history. And there were a couple styles I was interested in that there weren't really any teachers in the States that I knew of anyway. So I also, when I went to China, I went to university again I studied Chinese language and literature while I was there. So I found good teachers, and I was originally going to go for 3 or 4 years, and I ended up staying about 11 years. So just to train, and then I started fighting competitively, and just kind of went from there.
How old were you when you moved?
I went to China. I was 23. Yeah, I think 23, and I came back when I was about 33. Then I started jiu-jitsu when I was about 33.
How did you make that transition? Do you have anything that you could share with us about as a young man moving to China? That sounds like an incredible experience.
Well, yeah, it was interesting. I just kind of went, and I had a couple of connections. I started to find teachers. I got into school, and then, as I was there and I learned the language, I had more and more opportunities. So I was very fortunate. I got to study with some exceptional teachers. And then I was always kind of interested in the fighting aspects. The Kung Fu I did as a kid was kind of all self-defense oriented, that kind of thing. And the Chinese martial arts really have some basic self-defense on the ground, but nothing. I mean, there's no real like ground grappling or wrestling, anything that can compare to Western wrestling or judo or jiu-jitsu. And I knew from experience, the fights feel often up on the ground. So I was back in the States, I think, visiting. It was probably about 1992, and I got a black belt magazine or some magazine. And in the back of the magazine, I saw a little ad, and it said Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Real Fights. And I was like, Brazilian, I never heard of it, right? I was like, what's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? But it said Real Fights, so I bought it. And it was the Gracie in Action 1 tape. So once I watched it once, and I was like, this is fantastic stuff. So I had the idea, I kind of planted the seed that I wanted to learn some really learn some ground fighting. And that's how it started. Then when I came back, there weren't that many teachers yet. So I had to drive to San Diego from Orange County, just south of LA, once a week, just to the only teacher I could find at the time. And then as time went on, there are more and more Brazilians here, more and more teachers. And, now it became accessible. There was jiu-jitsu everywhere. So at first, again, I thought, well, I'll do some jiu-jitsu and kind of round out my fighting skills. And then I just fell in love with it, like most people do. And I just got into it. And then I just focused most of my training for a long time on the jiu-jitsu.
I'm still trying to grasp the idea of you just packing up and moving to China. Where in China did you go to? And did you speak Chinese, or could you communicate with people? Or tell me a little bit about that.
No, I couldn't. So what I did was I went to Taiwan. I lived in Taiwan most of the time, the Republic of China, and then I spent a fair amount of time in Beijing training as well. What I did, I actually went to a local university. I went to the Chinese department, and I said, hey, if I go to Taipei or someplace in Taiwan, how could I get into school? And they told me who to talk to. So, I wrote letters, and I got I just graduated from university here. So I got into a language program at a university. So that was kind of my connection. And, I'd read about some teachers there in magazines and things. So I actually looked some of them up when I got there, and I just kind of went. And, I moved over and started going to school, and then I found teachers. I was actually very fortunate. Some of the very first teachers that I was interested in, I was able to study with. So yeah, it just kind of went. Wow.
That's an amazing example of just being so dedicated to something that you're just up and leave and just head off into the unknown.
Yeah, that was an adventure. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it depends where you go. I mean, people have kind of maybe different expectations about places from what they've seen and heard, and when they get there, their dream doesn't match the reality kind of thing. Yeah. But I like all of Asia in general, but I really enjoyed my time. So, it wasn't really that hard for me. I was young and I had no responsibilities, so I could just travel when I wanted to, and I could train with who I wanted to, and find jobs. So it was it was just another avenue to pursue, I guess, rather than staying in the States and getting a job.
So what was the atmosphere of training like there? Were they open and showing you everything that you wanted to learn, or were some of the techniques kind of guarded from you as an American, as a traveler?
In general, well, there was some of that. There was some teachers, they were a little less open with foreigners. But I have to say the best teachers were the most open, I think, because they're more confident. So, at first as well, I couldn't speak any Chinese, so I had a hard time. And then as I learned the language, it was easier and easier for me to communicate with the teachers and get leads and that kind of thing. But the training there's, they don't usually have it wouldn't be like here where they rent like an academy in a strip mall or something. It's usually shared space in like a gym, or they do it in a park and that kind of thing. So that was a little different. And the kind of there's a little bit different discipline, I guess is the word, with like or there's like a hierarchy of students, and there's a different kind of there's a lot of respect for the teachers, and a lot of them, the older teachers especially, you didn't really question anything. You just kind of did what they told you. And then some of the younger teachers that I had were kind of much more open about it, but they're all really good. And they expected you to train hard, though. It wasn't like, you pay your fee and you kind of show up when you want to. And it wasn't like that at all. They expected a lot of kind of dedication and discipline from all the students. And if you lagged behind and they didn't think you're training hard enough, they just stopped talking to you. So that was a little different, than a kind of an American martial arts academy, which is maybe more of a business. And in general, like I said, the best teachers were open. If you trained hard and you were sincere, they were happy to teach.
Wow, it sounds like they didn't want to invest time in somebody who wasn't a serious person.
Exactly.
So you were in China for 10, 11 years, and you came back to the United States. Have you been back to China since?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have. I've been back to visit, and I went to, about 3 years ago, I taught a seminar in Shanghai and one in Taiwan. And I have now, one of my students is actually one of my black belts. He's a Chinese American guy that he grew up in Taiwan as a child, moved to the States, and then he trained with me for years and years. He got his black belt about a year or so, maybe 2 years ago now. He went back to Taiwan. He has an academy, so I've gone to teach there. He's doing really well. It's kind of taking off, the whole jiu-jitsu and MMA thing. So he's doing really well. So I go back. I'm going to go back probably the end of this year and teach again.
Wow, that's cool. I imagine has it changed? Is like the martial arts as a whole kind of changed over there, or are there still segments where they are kind of the old style of teaching things and a little bit more guarded versus what we experience over here?
Well, I think there's a kind of a division between what would be more traditional martial arts and then kind of the modern mixed martial arts. There's a kind of a clear. There is here as well. I think. I mean, MMA or jiu-jitsu is not for everyone, and there's a lot of good things, a lot of benefits for people practicing traditional styles as well. Some people, martial arts it's a broad study. Some people might do martial arts just for exercise or health. Some people like the culture of it or the history of it. They just, or the tradition of it, right? Or they're just interested in a specific style. And then other people are interested in maybe just self-defense, and other people want to compete, like in combat sports. So there's still, quite a number of people doing traditional styles, just like, they always have. And for whatever reason, could be just health, could be, and they have, a lot of the traditional styles, they're all originally fighting styles. So you find a good teacher, you train hard enough, you'll acquire real fighting skill. It's not going to be usually, well-rounded enough to be an MMA fighter, for example. And most of those people probably won't compete in anything. A lot of the younger generation, they MMA's become big, and they want to fight in the ring, or they want to grapple or whatever. So it's a separate group. It's kind of there's something for everyone.
You said you competed in a form of kickboxing in China.
Right.
What did that look like? I mean, I don't understand maybe the rules or how a match would look or anything that would surprise us about that form of kickboxing.
So Sanda, it's fundamentally kickboxing without ground fighting, but there's throwing allowed. Like a lot of Chinese wrestling throws are kind of prominent in Sanda. So basically, you can punch, kick. At the pros, you can punch, kick, knee, elbow, and throw. And then the fight stops when someone hits the ground. So there's no ground grappling. And the throws are scored based on, for example, if you get a grand amplitude throw and you stay on your feet as a thrower, you'll get more points. And kind of if I double-legged you and we both fell, I get less points. So they kind of reward you for the idea is kind of almost more street fight like you want to hit the guy and then throw him on the ground and stay on your feet. So it's it's a very well-rounded discipline. Minus the ground fighting part. That's the part that there's no grappling on the ground. So it's fundamentally a bit like Thai boxing with more throws, or kickboxing with more throws.
Yeah, it makes sense with those rules that they would reward you more if you could throw somebody and stay on your feet, since there is no actual ground game. That they would want you to remain standing with your opponent on the ground versus you both end up on the ground. So like giving you more points, I think is a great way to encourage that.
Exactly. So, obviously you need to have, everyone would need some ground fighting just, to back yourself up, but that's their idea, right? So it's all about keep standing fighting, right?
And so when did you start the transition to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? When you moved back to the United States pretty much immediately?
Yeah, I'd come back in the early 90s. That's when I said I first saw the Gracie Nash tape. So I had it in my head. But there was no one, at that time. I was still on vacation, I think. So I was going back anyway, back to Asia. But it was, the seed was planted. I was like, man, I really like to, I'd wrestle a little bit when I was younger. But the Brazilian, when I saw the Gracies, it appealed to me so much because it was kind of, they had a sport aspect, obviously, but they were doing it against, they were real fights. It was all the Gracie brothers, taking the guys, like the famous scene when they fight the karate guys, and they tie them up and take them down and submit them. And I was like, man, this is like, a wrestling style that's not, or at least not completely sportive. I mean, they're gearing it towards actual fighting. So, I was really wanted to do it. And the next year I came back, an old friend of mine I did martial arts with had started training, had started doing jiu-jitsu. So I had a couple private lessons then. That's when I first started it. And then I probably moved back a year or so later, and then I started training, like full time, like like regularly every day.
I want to go back a little bit more before we head full into the jiu-jitsu part of things. Were you working while you were in China, or were you a student, or how'd you do things there?
Yeah, so I was the first 5 years I was in university.
Okay.
And I worked. You can teach English. I taught English. And after a few years, I started doing translation work, and then the last few years, I worked as a stuntman in the movies as well. So that was kind of how I made my living.
Wow! Any movies that I would know about, maybe, or I could look up?
Highly unlikely. No, they're mostly Taiwanese movies, kind of like low budget action movies, and I was usually like a white bad guy.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Did you ever get injured doing that, or was it all pretty safe, or what were conditions like that?
Not too bad. Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, I didn't. I would do a lot of fight choreography, like fight stunts, and a little jumping out of buildings and things. But no, I wouldn't. I did. They had actually for the dangerous stunts that involved a lot like high falls and a lot of dangerous things. They would mostly use guys from the opera school, kind of like like where Jackie Chan came from, the Taiwanese opera school. So besides getting bruised up, my stuff was pretty safe.
Wow.
Pretty tame.
That's cool. I'm glad you were safe, but I had no idea that you were a stuntman for movies there. That's pretty neat to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So now transitioning to jiu-jitsu, how was that transition for you? If you can go back and give yourself some advice about you as a young man going to switch from a Chinese martial art to this one, what would you say, and how would you help yourself on that?
Yeah, I mean, I have absolutely no regret, obviously. The only thing I would have done if I would have known, I mean, if there was jiu-jitsu available when I was younger, I would have, like anyone that started when they're a little older, I would have started when I was younger. That would be the only thing. And, I did wrestle a little bit. Like, I never really, I don't know why actually now, I thought about this before. I could have done some judo, but something, when I was a kid, somehow judo, it just seemed like, throwing each other with a gi, and you know what I mean? It seemed like just a sport. I didn't know much about it then. So if I could go back in time as a child, even though there was no Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu yet, I would definitely have done some judo, as well as, anything else I might have done. I would have started with some grappling as young as possible. That's the only, it's not a regret. It's just, if I had to go back in time and give myself advice, I'd be like, Tim, take some judo.
You spent those years in China learning mostly a striking art with some throws, and then transitioning to a grappling art. How were the teaching methods different, or were you able to use some ways that you learned from one to the other and learn a little bit quicker?
Yeah, I think when I went on the ground, I didn't do any better than if probably I had never done martial arts really. When I actually got in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academy, it was just you know how it is. If you don't know how to grapple, you're just helpless on the ground. I think a couple of things. I had a work ethic, so when I started training, I trained as hard as I could. And that was kind of already in my whole background, right? You had to train really hard. And the stand-up, when it came to stand-up, the throws that I learned, I didn't learn them with the gi on, but it wasn't hard. It didn't take me very long to kind of start to be able to kind of use the throws that I'd always used with the gi on. So, when I started competing in jiu-jitsu, I think through purple belt, I took down almost everyone that I didn't win every match, but I think I got to take down almost every match because I'd had kind of years of standing grappling experience. So that carried over somewhat. But on the ground, no. I mean, when I first started trying to grapple on the ground, I mean, I was as helpless as everyone else.
When you were purple belt, let's go look at that a little bit. What were you like as a purple belt compared to now?
As a purple belt?
Yeah, like the game you played or the things you like to do. versus the way you are now as a grappler?
Oh, I mean, it's. I feel like, one of the beautiful things about jiu-jitsu is if you put a little effort in, and you can become very proficient with real skills in a short amount of time. So, say, you've never done any kind of martial art. You go to a jiu-jitsu academy, a good school, you train hard. In a few months, I mean, you can out-grapple. You can take most guys down. You can control them on the ground. But because it's, as all true arts, you could practice your whole life and still not completely master it. So that's one of the things. So as I train, I always try to think, as I get a little older and I'm a little more mature about it, I think, my thought process are different. Before, conditioning was, of course, conditioning is always important, but it's conditioned. You got to be a little stronger, like have better endurance, and then always keep up on new techniques and that kind of thing. And that's always important. But as I've gotten a little older, once you get, you've got, it's about purple belt level, you've probably got 90% of all the techniques that really work. You've seen them or you know them, So the focus kind of changes to how it really works, the mechanics behind the technique, and then I think a big emphasis should be on sensitivity. So you get better at feeling how people move and what you can do and how you control your own body, and those kind of things, those kind of attributes will start to become more in the forefront. And as you get older, your physicality is going to wane. Everyone's does. But if you have an outlook of, I'm going to improve my sensitivity and, my angles and my application of leverage, you can get better at that, to indefinitely, I suppose, until you're old.
Is there a way to, when you're training or rolling, to purposely get better at sensitivity?
Yeah, of course. So first of all, there's drills. You can practice, kind of movement drills with a partner in fixed parameters so that you get used to the feeling of how things go and then how your body can react. And then they're not technical, right? They're not like, if the guy does this, I'll do this to him, ABC kind of thing. They're more about, like, how can I maintain a position, for example, or how can I float on someone on top, and when he moves, I can fill in all the spaces so he can't escape. So there's kind of non-technical drills, but within certain parameters, not full sparring. And then when you're training, you can always practice your, no matter what the other guy, how hard he's going or whatever he's doing, you can always kind of relax and think about the principles of the movement and the relationship between you and your partner, rather than, I got to sweep him, I got to submit him, I got, that kind of thing technically. So you might, you might, like an example would be, maybe I pull you in close guard, and then I don't use my hands. Like, I won't grab your gi, I won't grab your wrist. I'll just try to keep my guard closed and follow you, or maybe even sweep you without using my hands. So then it's all about the sensitivity of my hips and our relationship, the angles that we're at, and which ways I can make you lose your balance, those kind of things. And then of course you have to have technique to do, but it's not really about like getting a certain technique on a guy. So there's a lot of things you can do when you roll that you can kind of emphasize the sensitivity aspects and kind of the whole maximizing your leverage and control over just always trying to do certain techniques.
Is there generally speaking, a good time when someone's game to start working on that? I mean, at white belt, it seems like we're just working so much on just understanding what's going on and the basic ideas of what you're doing. And is there a certain like belt level or maybe a couple of years of experience where like you want to kind of slow things down and try to be notice what's going on behind the scenes and develop that sensitivity?
You're absolutely right. I mean, when you're a white belt, everything's new. So I think white belts, just like Grandmaster Helio talked about, the beginning levels is more about survival. So there's always, no matter, even if you're not cognizant of it, everyone's always practicing. You're always improving your sensitivity and your leverage, just in general, because the techniques are set up to work, with maximum leverage and all. So it's kind of being, even subconsciously, you're gonna get it right. So when you're a white belt, not too much emphasis on that kind of thing yet, because first of all, you've got to learn the hierarchy of positions. You've got to learn, how to move in those situations. You got to start to get a handle on just basic techniques and that kind of thing. So you'll still be getting some of that training, but you got to focus more on the basics and surviving. You got to be able to go through a round with someone maybe a little better than you, and you can defend yourself and not be submitted or dominated. You're already doing well. But having said that, I think the teachers, the tone of your training is going to be set. Like usually when you practice a skill, what you do first is going to be kind of more heavily embedded in your brain than maybe a lot of things you do later. Like a good beginning is very important kind of thing. So I think it's important for the instructor, even with the brand new people, to keep an eye on them and make sure they're not going nuts too much. They're not using too much force. I mean, you got to let them fight. They don't know any better yet, but you still, you got to kind of always kind of bring them back to that correct path of, we're going to try to use technique. We're going to try to use leverage over just a lot of brute force. And then, you got to let them wrestle, obviously, but always keep reminding them. So you got to nudge them back onto the right track. And then as they get better, people by the time they're blue belts, blue belts, a solid blue belt has a lot of technique, right? So at blue belt level too, you can maybe start in a little more of the sensitivity drills and start to kind of clean up their angles and their leverage. And by purple belts, they should be all about it, I think, right? Because purple belts are advanced grapplers. So they should really be, kind of understanding how everything works and focusing a lot on transitions and how to fill in space and leverage and angles.
Yeah, that's great advice. Tim, you mentioned early in your martial arts career that, or at least when you were in China, that some teachers were not open, but the best teachers were more confident and they seem to be more open and show you more. How has that experience back then affected the type of instructor you are now?
Yeah, I when I decided I was going to teach, or basically teach full time, what I really wanted to do was, my idea was if you're going to be a successful teacher, your students, the ones that train hard, you got to have students that are sincere and train hard. But if I had a student, say, for example, with the same amount of whatever ability I had or talent I had, that trained as hard as me, if they don't get better at it faster than I did, then I'd be a failure as an instructor, right? So my idea was I try to streamline the teaching as much as possible and kind of get rid of anything that I thought was, like not the most efficient use of class time and that kind of thing. So that did have a big influence on me. I think as a teacher, no matter how good you are as a fighter or as a martial artist, if you're teaching people for a living and they're not getting it, it's got to be your fault, not their fault, right? So or a lot of the kind of old school teachers, really, really talented people would kind of get it by trial and error over years. So they'd have a small percentage of the students who would get it, whereas if they just would have spent more time teaching, they would have had a large percentage. So for me as an instructor, even just for my own ego, the better my students are and the more that are good, the more successful I feel like I am as a teacher. So that did influence me. My idea is I would like everyone to get better, improve as fast as they possibly can.
And how does that, how important is it, clearly you have an attitude of helping your students get better, but how important is it that your students have that same attitude for helping their teammates get better for each individual's development?
Yeah, that's a great point. You got to remember so the goal of training in an academy, when you're training with your fellow students, even if you're somebody else's open mat, when everybody's training together, the goal when you're rolling is not to win. It's not to submit. It's not to dominate. It's to get better jiu-jitsu. So sometimes maybe you're better than another guy, right? You've got to give him chances to move around. You let if you're a solid blue belt and you let the white belt pass your guard and take your back, well, now you got to work hard. You both get better, right? It's not about, I just made that guy tap as much as possible. So the students, I think it's important to have the idea that, by helping other people when you're rolling, everybody gets better. So it's not always about just winning. When you're competing, it's about winning, right? Or you're fighting, it's about winning. When you're training, it's just about getting better. So you're right. You need to foster that kind of culture of, everybody trains hard, but everybody should be getting better together. And if you're, an average guy in the class, maybe you don't get a roll at the black belt all the time or many higher belts. If you're better than everyone else, if they don't get any better, you'll never get any better. You don't have any more, there's no competition for you. So the better everyone gets, the better you get. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. And it's, it is an individual thing, but really over the long term of things, it's definitely a team activity as your team develops, and it seems like that's a priority for the people you train with to develop everyone there.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you training at?
The academy, it's Ace Jiu-Jitsu. It's in Fountain Valley in Orange County in Southern California, and I'm the head instructor at the school. So we have I have the two owners, just Asa Fuller and Chris Tui. They're also black belts under my my teacher, Clever Luciano, and they run the school. So we have, a few black belt instructors and, other people teaching there. So it's nice. It's kind of a good, we all have different games, and, you get a good range of technique and training.
And do you have different, do you break the classes up for beginner and advanced, or for adult and kid, or is everybody in the same type of a class?
Yeah, the kids are separate. So we have, the little kids, the little ones, and then, the all the way up through teenagers, and then the adult class. So that's broken up. But as far as, we have everyone trained in the same class. So kind of my philosophy on there's nothing wrong with having like a beginner's class. So say you get, all brand new guys together, and it's easy to kind of, teach them all the same stuff at the same time. And that's a good way to do it. There's nothing wrong with that. But and if you have, a really, really large academy, it might be an easier way to do it. But my philosophy is, everyone should train together. So what I do is, the beginners and the advanced guys, or whatever level that, everybody warms up together. They do the conditioning together. The better guys will help, newer people. And then when I show techniques, if it's, basic technique, everyone learns the basics. There'll be maybe a couple basic techniques. And you want to pair off the beginners with the more advanced guys so they can feel how it's done correctly, so the more advanced guys can help them. Because if, the instructor can only spend so much time with everyone, right? So you have the higher belt guys, or the more advanced guys helping the new people. And then when they're good with those techniques, then you put the beginners together and let them keep going with those techniques. And you take the advanced guys and show them more advanced techniques, that kind of thing. And then everyone spars with everyone.
That sounds good. How much development is done by the advanced student, or getting there close to advanced student, pairing up with a new student and having to answer some questions and kind of trying to teach it to the best that they can? Do you think that helps their learning process as well?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, at a certain point, it's difficult to get past a certain level unless you teach someone else. So teaching's good. And you don't have to be a master to teach. You can be a blue belt and teach a white belt. You just have to know what you're talking about, right? So you're familiar with that material. And here's what will happen. Maybe you're good at it, right? Say a blue belt's good at the, armbar in the guard. He's good at it. Then one day he has a brand new guy, and he's got to explain it. And what it does is, by him having to verbalize it step by step in every little detail, it'll solidify that knowledge in his head. And also, the beginner might ask questions. He's like, well, what if the guy does this? And then the guy, the blue belt has to think about it. So all those things are going to help him get better as well. So at a certain point, teaching is it's a two-way street always. So, the guy will, the teacher or the higher level guy will help impart his knowledge to the person that's not as good, but it's also going to help solidify his knowledge. And every once in a while still, I've taught for a long, long time, and there'll be some brand new guy, and they'll be like, well, what if this guy would, and I've never thought of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, right? Like that's for me, it's a great lesson. It's like I should be paying him.
Yeah, that's sometimes you learn from places that you don't expect to learn from, or from people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned a little bit ago that some people have the desire to lose weight or defend themselves, or for sport. How does that affect your teaching? If you know the goal of the student, do you change much, or do you change the way that you interact with them sometimes, or kind of treat everybody the same way?
Because of my whole background and kind of my whole vision of martial arts, I have a real emphasis on self-defense stuff. So everyone, we do like everybody, like for example, my blue belt test. You have to show and explain the basic techniques, whatever they are, like everyone does in the test. And then there's also escaping from like kind of standing grappling holds, like someone pushing the headlock, all that stuff. And then everyone at the end, one of these instructors usually puts on boxing gloves, and they'll just come out swinging like a brawler, and they'll just try to hit the white belt who's testing. The white belt has to be able to cover, cover his head, defend without hitting back, achieve the clinch, and take the instructor down. And they get back up and they do it for a 2-minute round. So everybody's like, because I've practiced that, so everybody has like kind of like a little adrenalized, real fight training. Somebody really trying to punch them in the face with gloves on, and they've got to get used to that kind of thing and hold. So I don't want anybody in my school to get to blue belt level that has no idea what to do if someone starts throwing punches at them or puts them in a body lock or a headlock or anything like that. They all have to have some basic skills. They have to be able to access their jiu-jitsu. You can't you can't, throw someone or submit them on the ground if they're just punching your face. You're going to lose the fight. So everybody, even my students, people are like, Tim, I don't care, Tim. I just want to fight in tournaments. They still got to be able to defend themselves, at least to a basic degree. So that's always included in all classes. And then, gi classes, it's like everyone else. We teach the same techniques basically. No gi, we teach submissions. And then if you want to go on, if you want to do MMA, we have separate like a Muay Thai class, that kind of thing. And then sometimes, you have advanced classes where you teach advanced drills and advanced concepts. And then I actually coach a couple of pro MMA fighters, and that's a whole different story. They're pros, so that's not just normal class. That's separate from like just the normal classes.
Yeah, Tim, I have memories of being a white belt and having somebody have gloves on and being told take him down. And it was intimidating. I hadn't done any striking arts, and I wasn't going to even try to throw a punch. It's just get a hold of that person and do my best. And I do think that was a valuable lesson back then. And it it's a good way to get a little bit of adrenaline going, a little bit more excitement than a typical just try to take somebody down. They're trying to hit me, and I don't want to get hit. So
exactly right.
Is that? Do you think that's that method of training or even experience is lacking in today's schools and in a lot of places?
Here's what you see nowadays. A lot of schools are pretty much completely sport oriented, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's like people that go to them, they like, look, jiu-jitsu is a big sport now, or submissions, grappling, and they just really don't care. They just want to learn how to win a tournament. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think, having said that, though, it's getting away from kind of the original vision or purpose of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in general. So, I mean, it was geared around actual fighting, right? Defending yourself, and that kind of promise of all martial arts that a smaller and weaker person can defend themselves against the bigger and stronger. So tournaments were invented, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments were more about, like testing your skills out in a relatively safe format. And then, of course, you make rules and you make tournaments. People just want to win the tournament. So now they just do sport jiu-jitsu. So I think that it's the thing I think that's kind of a little bit tragic about it is the people who have 100% sport-oriented curriculum for about another 10% investment in time, or just taking 10% away from the sport and teaching people how to cover their head and maybe hit back a little and do takedowns, they could have people that are prepared for a real fight. You know what I mean? It doesn't take once you can throw a guy and control him and submit him on the ground. It doesn't take very much more training to learn to cover your head. And I'm not talking about being an MMA fighter in the ring. I'm talking about just self-defense, how to cover your head and achieve a safe clinch in a fight so the guy can't hit you. Throw him on the ground and get away or follow up, that kind of thing. So I would like to see. It would be nice if everyone did maybe a little bit more self-defense. But people are an athlete's an athlete. If the guy wants to win tournaments, a lot of people who do jiu-jitsu have never been in a fight in their life. It's a sport to them, so you can't blame them, right? They just want to be athletes and win combat sports. So there is. I think you see less and less now of the self-defense curriculum going on, though, and I think it's a shame.
It seems like even at schools that don't teach the self-defense, not all the people are there just to compete. Like they might have came in for a weight loss reason or for fun or fitness, and they end up just going onto the sport style of grappling, where a lot of times maybe they wouldn't even mind learning, how to throw a combination and to dodge a punch and to get a clinch, but it's just not being shown.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when I'll have people come from other academies, maybe they're blue belts or purple belts, and they've had no self-defense training at all. And they're good grapplers, though. They got good takedowns. I mean, they're competent ground grapplers. And they'll come to class, and that day I'll do like the guy throws a hook, and you cover your head, and they love it. Actually, they're like, wait a minute. It's kind of like all of a sudden, like, wow, with a little bit more training, I actually know how to defend myself. People in general will like it, and you don't have to spend a lot of time on it. If you just want them to get some basic skills, I think most people in general, even if they don't realize it yet, would actually like that kind of training.
Yeah, I'm all for not taking a bunch of trauma to my brain, but you don't have to do that to just be able to deal with some other person who doesn't have any experience at all. Like those people, it's like same as grappling, like you mentioned before. In a couple of months, you're going to far outperform people who don't know how to grapple. In a couple of short classes, or even a few minutes, here for each class or whatever, it does add up, and it's an effective way to take your sport and make it into a self-defense activity as well.
Correct. You're right. It does, like we'll do takedowns at the beginning of every class. Every class, the sport classes, we'll always drill a couple takedowns. And we don't spend too much time on it because, class time's limited, and the majority of the time, of course, is spent on ground grappling. But, you said exactly the correct thing. It adds up. So, guys who spend, 20 minutes at the beginning of class doing takedowns over time, after a year, that's a lot of training. They can take people down, Now, not compared to someone who did maybe judo and they spend the whole class time doing take, but for jiu-jitsu or just in general, later on, if you need to use it in an actual confrontation, they'll have some real skills. It's just a matter of, just a little bit of correct training every class besides just your ground training will add up over time. And it doesn't really over time detract it from your ground fight training either. You can spend a little less time running around the mat, and you can spend that time learning throws, you know what I mean? So you can make the best use of your class time as well.
It's time. It's a short amount of time, but it's well worth it. I mean, I think of anybody who's won several tournaments that they would trade a medal in a heartbeat to win a self-defense situation. I mean, there's no comparison about which is more important to come out on top. One is a life-threatening situation. So invest a little bit of time in yourself and the people that you are with when you're out in public, and like that you might be able to help yourself with them. So I agree with you on that. You mentioned a phrase a little bit ago. You said access your jiu-jitsu. Could you dive in a little bit deeper? What do you mean by that?
Say you've trained for 3 years in a school, and all you've ever done is start on the ground, sitting. You're on your knees, Then when you go to fight, you run out and like everybody does a double guard pull and sits down. And that's not going to help you in a fight, right? Really. So your jiu-jitsu, it should be including throws, but say just the ground fighting alone, you will not be able to access that unless you can get someone on the ground, right? Because if you're in a real fight, you're not just going to sit down. They're going to start slugging you in the head. So you need to be able to defend yourself, clinch, and throw the person, or strike back and knock him down, or you know what I mean. You can't. So if you want to access your ground fighting skills, you need to be able to get the other guy on the ground, and then that requires a little bit of stand-up training. That's how you access your jiu-jitsu. Even the throws, if you just throw with a gi on, you might. I mean, if there's a tussle and someone's swinging, you get hit a few times and you get a hold of him, you could probably throw him down, right? If you've done throws, but that's not the most efficient way to learn that kind of skill. So say you have real throwing skills as well. Then you practice a little bit, a little bit of time with people, really, really punching you and trying to grab you for real, or, tackle you, and you learn how to deal with that. Then you can access your throws. You can access your jiu-jitsu in a realistic fashion.
If somebody's training at a jiu-jitsu school and they don't really do this, let's say they don't really striking at all, and they feel like that they're missing out just on this aspect of it. Is there a popular thing, like a popular sport or martial art that they could go do for a short period of time to pick that up, or what would you recommend for them to fill in this gap in their game? For
striking?
Yeah.
Did you say?
Yeah, what's popular in the United States where they can go?
Like a Muay Thai, probably. I mean, it's probably going to be or boxing. Either one will be the two go-to styles. So a lot of the bigger, like we have, a lot of the bigger academies too, they'll have a separate Muay Thai program. So Muay Thai is a bit like Jiu-Jitsu. Boxing as well. You have a good coach and you train for a relatively short period of time. You'll have some real like standing movement skills and some real striking skills. You'll be able to deal with punches and actually hit back hard. So I would recommend, if someone said, man, I've done a lot of jiu-jitsu and jiu-jitsu self-defense is probably enough. Jiu-jitsu's got basic strikes, right? And you can defend yourself and throw the guy down. But if you want to back yourself up with some real striking, you can't beat boxing for punching, obviously. I mean, nobody's going to teach you to punch as well and as efficiently as a good boxing coach. And then you want to, incorporate some kicks and some other weapons. Muay Thai is probably the go-to. But there's a lot of other styles. I mean, there's a lot of there's all kinds of styles that have good striking skills. I wouldn't limit it to that. But if you went to a decent boxing gym or a Muay Thai academy, you're going to learn. You're going to learn how to punch and kick. That's the way it is.
Yeah, like if somebody wanted to do grappling for a month or so, I would say that they're going to learn, kind of what it feels like to be pushed around a little bit, how to try to control somebody, and just the basic, kind of dealing with some scrambles and dealing with some pressure for somebody else. What would somebody learn in a month of a stand-up art that they would be able to take away? Like, would it be the distance, or would it be the aggression control and trying to deal with that? Or what would you say that they would learn in a short amount of time?
Well, yeah, it would depend on the academy, but exactly. So one of the big points of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well in self-defense is always managing the distance. You understand the safe distance and what can happen to you at different distances, stand for on the ground both, right? So that will be one of the big things you'll learn. You'll learn, kind of based on how far someone is from you and their body angle and, the way they're holding themselves, what they can do. And you'll get used to real aggression, like people really trying to hit you or coming at you. And it's like shock inoculation. Just like you said, when you in your beginning of your jiu-jitsu, when guys put gloves on and slugged you, right? Just going through that once or twice is going to help you for real. So that you'll learn that distance management. You'll learn how to deal with real blows. How to make correct angles, and then how to fire back. So that will be, and correct footwork is, if you don't have good footwork and you can't move your body through space, you're in big trouble. So all those things are just basic to striking arts. So those will come fast.
Yeah, that's well said there. The idea of accessing your jiu-jitsu, being able to get the fight to the ground or to a situation where you're happy. Could we also look at this as like in an actual just jiu-jitsu match, like getting to a part of your game that's going to be a good spot for you as well to access your jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. That's all fighters, even when they're doing the same style together. Like obviously, if a Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter is going to fight a stand-up fighter, like he's a Muay Thai fighter, a boxer, he wants to clinch and take him down. Everybody wants to take the fight to their realm, right? So that's a given. But you're right. Even within jiu-jitsu. So if I'm a guard player, I'm going to pull guard. If you're better on top, you're going to try to stay on top. You're always trying to, when you're competing, especially, you're always trying to get your opponent into your game because that's where he's the most familiar and hopefully he's not as good. So that you can access exactly your best game when you get them into that flow, right? So, we watch everyone compete. That's what they do. They go right to their best position and they keep going back to it. And that's just natural. That's what everyone does.
Yeah, Tim, we've talked a lot about self-defense and striking arts and a little bit about competing. What would you have for advice for a student who's going to do their first tournament?
Yeah, say you're a white belt, you've trained a few months and you first of all, it's just a tournament. You know what I mean? I think a lot of the people that haven't competed very much, a lot of people get surprisingly anxious for whatever reason. But yeah, it's understandable. It's not a team sport, right? If you lose, you win or lose on your own merit. You can't blame it on the other guy who dropped the ball or anything. So that's one thing. And all your friends are watching. So a lot of times I found that, it's like you're a white belt in a small tournament, but people so you got to remember it's a game. You're the same person if you win or lose. So I try to, try to keep people as calm as possible. And then basically the other thing I always tell my students is they try to, a lot of times they come up with scenarios like if this happens and that happens, you can't do that because the other guy has a plan of his own. So you can have a vague strategy or you can be like, wow, this guy's really good at throws, I'm going to pull guard or something. But after that, you kind of just have to let your jiu-jitsu come out as much as you can. The training is done before you go on the mat, right? Nothing you can think of right before fight time or whatever is going to help you at all. It's just going to make you anxious. So, I try to, my guys, especially the beginners, I just tell them it's just a game, right? Win or lose, you're going to learn something and not to think too much. I just have them go on the mat and just let jiu-jitsu come out. Because the more you start thinking or second guessing yourself, almost invariably the worse you'll do.
Yeah. You've had a lot of students with both the grappling and striking arts. When you see a new student come in the door and you get to know them a little bit, what would be like a personality trait that you would see in them that you would think that they would do well in this and that they're going to stick with it?
Oh, I mean, I don't know if it'd be one personality trait. You'll pick up a lot of times. Usually, you have to when you see them start training, you'll have a better idea. It's kind of hard to tell when you talk to someone, right? So, I mean, there's always those people that come in that are nervous and they kind of want to try it and they're not really sure, and they usually don't stick around. But usually, when people first start, what'll happen is jiu-jitsu is tough, right? It's not the easiest sport. It's like there's no easy day really on the mat, So you'll see pretty quickly, like, there's really a couple things. Do they have the work ethic? I mean, are they willing to train that hard consistently? You can tell, like, a lot of times pretty quickly, it's like they're not going to, and not that they're not tough enough or whatever, they're going to quickly figure out, like, the risk reward. It's like, all this effort, is it worth it to me? And a lot of people are going to go, no, it's not. Like, they're going to think, I don't really want to compete. I'm never going to get in a fight anyway. This is really hard. So they're not going to stick it out. So you look for that kind of, they're going to persevere. And then you can tell pretty quickly a lot of times too, people will really, really like it. Even though they haven't done it long, they'll just take to it and they'll be like, damn, this is really fun. Even when they get their ass kicked, because when you start, you lose, right? You get submitted. Basically what happens is every time you roll someone, you get submitted. So they've got to keep their ego in check, right? Because for your whole career, your ego's got to be in check. But especially in the beginning when you're not winning, you're never winning. So you've got to people that can kind of check their ego and they can accept that, okay, I'm brand new, everyone's going to beat me now, and I'll put the time in and I'll start winning. That kind of mentality is very important. And then you can usually tell, like, people fall in love with, they really want to do it, or they're just, they don't want to. So if I see that kind of, like, they think it's worth it, and you can tell they have, like, that desire to train hard, and they go out every day and guys make them tap, and it's a hard workout, and they're happy when they're done. Those are the kind of people that I think, that guy's got a shot at a black belt. Yeah,
it's the attitude and the ability to have enjoyment with it, even when it's not going well for you, that will help keep you coming to the mats.
Right.
People are busy. We all can't dedicate our lives and head to China. Like, people have families before they even know jiu-jitsu exists, and they've got careers and things like that. If somebody's able to make it to the mats 2 nights a week, what advice would you give them to get the most out of their training?
So, I mean, that's a lot of people, and you're right. I mean, there's family and work and school and all those constraints. So the first thing, my suggestion would be, you need to make a schedule, with your family or around I know schedules change, but those guys, they're like, well, I come in when I can. It's hard to get good like that, no matter how sincere you are. So, you make a deal with your wife, you get 2 nights, and she gets to do whatever for 2 nights, whatever it takes. So you have a consistent, even if it's once a week, it's consistent. And then, you need to be obviously you need to be in a good school where you're getting, you're getting quality instruction and the program's good. Like you actually sign up at a place that you feel like you can learn. And then it doesn't take, I would recommend, like, you need to spend a little time on your own. You can, if you have a carpet at home, is all you need. You need to work your bait. You need to, bridge and hip move and, do some conditioning, like, especially the basic movements of jiu-jitsu when you first start. They're like kata. They're, the same, they're equivalent to kind of like kata in other martial arts. And if you just spend 15, and those guys go to the gym maybe, or they have a little time at night, you spend 15 minutes a day doing it, you'll get better much, much quicker, because you're conditioning your body specifically for the jiu-jitsu, and you're putting those movements in your muscle memory so that when you learn the technique, you can already do the movement, and that will like expedite the whole learning process. So those are I would say, try to make it your commitment, try to make it a set schedule so you can make the class, and then a little bit, 15, 20 minutes a day, almost every day when you have time, work your basic exercises at home, and you won't get good as fast as if you could train 6 days a week, but you'll still, it'll, like we talked about before, it'll add up. And it won't seem like that long, and all of a sudden you'll be like, man, I have some actual real jiu-jitsu ability.
Yeah, that's great advice for a situation that a lot of people are in, and even if you're training 5 times a week right now, there'll probably be a time in your life sometime when you have to cut back a little bit due to situations outside your control. Do you have any final thoughts or things you'd like to leave with the audience?
We're lucky. It's fortunate, just historically, how things panned out, that the whole world, well, most of the world, especially the States, has this great opportunity to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? And not only that, with the advent of MMA, for the people that are interested in like realistic cross training and realistic combat sports training, you have a lot of opportunities now that 15, 20 years ago no one had. So I think that everyone should be thankful that we have the opportunity here to practice these things we get to practice. Also, too, I think that as a personal, just my own vision of the martial arts, I would like to see people in Jiu-Jitsu academies spend a little time on self-defense aspects of the art, so that's not, it doesn't get further and further away from its roots, along with the sportive aspects. And that's about it.
Cool. Well, I thank you very much for the interview, and I learned a lot from you today, and I'm sure the audience did as well.
All right. Thank you very much.
We'd like to thank Tim for coming out on our show and sharing his experiences in martial arts with us. And like we said, he started in 1972. So not many people have been doing martial arts longer than him. Yeah,
very cool. And just a cool way to learn about jiu-jitsu from somebody else's perspective that has such a wide range of training. So it's always good to have.
Yeah, I mean, you train your Chinese martial arts, you learn some stuff there. You train jiu-jitsu, you learn stuff there. But you see a lot of the stuff overlaps, and it's just going to make you a better in jiu-jitsu from your Chinese martial arts experience, or you're going to be better in Chinese martial arts from your jiu-jitsu experience. So it's going to give you new ideas and different ways of doing things, and just make you a better, more overall rounded martial artist.
Yep. Gary, the music's kicking in here. It's telling us to talk about your audiobook this week.
Oh, I like how you moved it up before I could do the old snaffaroonie on you.
Yeah, last week you took hold of this beast and threw an audiobook at me. So I'm jumping up a couple of segments. We haven't covered the gi patch for next week's show, but this time talk about Gary's audiobook.
What do I got coming soon, Byron?
Yeah. Gary's book this week is called Spam Sweeps. There's 100 ways to cook spam, and I guess Gary's spam sweep, there's 100 ways to sweep somebody with the same sweep. I don't understand it, Gary. There's a lot of buzz online about this book being controversial. So what's up with the spam sweep book?
Well, you're talking about the buzz. Actually, I think the buzz is due to me leaving some spam outside in the Kansas heat, and a lot of flies have been eating it. So I think that's the buzz you've been hearing, because that's the only buzz I've been hearing. But spam, spam has been around forever. It's tested. It's tried and true, just like my sweeps. You like that?
I do like it. It's got style, Gary.
Yeah. But, basically what I'm saying, spam is like the brick of the food. I mean, It's been around forever. It's your brick, like we talk about Bjj Break. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get you good at one sweep. You have a sweep that you can hit 100 times over and over again. You're going to get so good at it, you're going to know it in and out, that sweep is going to be your brick. Or Bjj Break, we say it's the one move that you know so well that you go to it whenever you're in trouble. You go to it whenever you're in a submission position. It's the one you think you can finish just about every time. And that's what my spam sweep is going to do for you. I'm not going to tell you what sweep to pick, but you're going to find one. You're going to keep working and working at it. And pretty soon it's going to be your brick, and you're going to be able to hit it anytime you want.
Yeah.
And I actually think this might have been my most serious audiobook so far.
Gary, but I was talking to your publicist about this audiobook, and the cover, he was telling me that it's you in front of a house that's not built of brick but built of spam bricklets. Like they made. What's up with that, Gary? Are they still in the can? Are they out of the can? Or what's going on with your spam house?
Well, the problem is we tried to build a house out of spam, but what happened when the wolves came to the house to see if the pigs were home, they ended up eating the house, and they didn't eat the pigs.
Oh.
So there was a plus to it, but then they had to build another house. And spam, I mean, you've seen how small a can of spam is. Do you imagine how many cans of spam you need to make a house?
A lot of cans of spam, Gary.
Yeah, yep. So Basically, definitely check out my audiobook when it comes out. And it's going to be very, very beneficial. And like Byron says, there's a buzz already about it.
Yeah, and I think just the idea that you put pigs in a house made of Spam, that's just because Spam is made from pork. That's just all kinds of weird, Gary. So we'll let that kind of settle and see how people react to your picture on the cover there.
Well, when you said it's kind of weird, the nice thing is this audiobook is directed, or actually we're going to turn it into a video book. It's directed by Tarantino. So you can expect a lot of stuff.
There we go. This is exciting.
Yeah, but it's not Quentin Tarantino. It's John Tarantino, the guy from down the block.
Oh, man. I'm sure it'll be great, Gary. With your name stamped on this wonderful Spam book, it's going to be outstanding.
Yep. Blam Spam.
I'm excited about this book, and I'm excited about next week's interview. We have Jess Fraser on. She's head of the Women's Girls in Gis in Australia, and she's touring North America right now doing jiu-jitsu. So head of this great organization, competitor at a high level. She's been to ADCC and competed in all the major tournaments as well. So very fun interview with her. Happy to have her on the show next week.
And also check us out on social media. We're on Facebook. Check out our YouTube channel, YouTube, Instagram, and especially if you're listening to this show, it means you probably like jiu-jitsu or Spam, one of the two. And definitely tell your friends about it. The best compliment we can get is when somebody calls us or emails us at bjjbrick@gmail.com and tells us, hey, my buddy told me about the show. He said he really likes it, and it's the first time I listened to it, and I love it, and I'm going to go check out some past episodes and listen to all the future ones. So definitely tell your friends about us. We would really appreciate it.
Yep, means a lot to us. Gary, are you heading to Brazil anytime soon?
No, I'm not, but I would like to. And I know that I'll be a lot better prepared if I go to Brazil, thanks to our buddy Claudio.
Yes. So every week for the past 6 weeks here, we've had a small little segment of Claudio teaching us a few words. And this week, our friend Claudio is going to teach us the phrase, do you speak English? Which I guess you could probably convert to any other language, that you speak if you don't speak English. But I know you speak some English, listen to us talk, so that's pretty safe. So if you do go to Brazil, or you train with somebody who's from Brazil and doesn't speak a lot of English, this will be a phrase, and all these phrases that Claudio's teaching us will be something that could help you get by and interact with people a little bit better. So here's our language learning segment with Claudio. Oi, Claudio. Welcome back, my friend.
Oi, Byron. Tudo bem?
Tudo bem. Very good.
Good. Muito bom, muito bom.
All right, well, which one?
Bom.
Good. Boom.
Bom. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Muy boom. Very good.
Muito bom.
Muito boom.
That's very good.
Okay. So we said oi, hello, and then tudo bem is kind of like, how's it going, or how are you? And then
I'm good. I'm good. You say, tô bom. Estou bom. Or bem. You can say, estou bem. It's tudo bem. It's the same idea. Tudo bem will be the same as estou bem, basically.
All right.
I'm well.
I'm well. Okay, good. And I'm glad you're doing well today, Claudio.
I'm doing great.
Well, maybe a good question to ask somebody would be, do you speak English? Or implying that you want somebody, is anybody that works here or anybody that trains here speaks English? Kind of that sort of, when you ask that question, do you speak English, and they don't, usually they're looking for somebody that does, and they usually know somebody who could help you out. So how would you ask
That's
that?
True. Well, we spoke about that before. That, if you are in Brazil, they will try to communicate with you, and but still, it's very important to have the language. And if you don't have it, you will try to find somebody who speaks English. So the phrase you will use, do you speak English? It's você fala inglês. So let's break this down. Do you will be você, or you is você, speak, fala, English will be inglês. So, você fala inglês, with a question mark at the end there. So if you're looking for somebody that you can communicate a little bit better or can help you out with translation or anything you need, you will use the phrase você fala inglês. Now it's your turn, Brian.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to try to break it down.
Show your skills.
Você
fala.
Vala. Is it like a V or F? Vala?
F.
Fala.
So it's fala. Perfect. So it's você, it's V-O-C-E. Fala, it's F-A-L-A. And then inglês, which is a little bit different than English. It's I-N-G-L-E-S. So você fala inglês.
Você fala inglês.
Perfect.
And if you say it kind of how I did, probably a little messed up, they'll really know you don't speak much Portuguese.
Yeah, they'll get the clue right there. Well, sure, let me find somebody to
yes.
English for you.
I'm already at my limits at what I could say. So,
and there's plenty of people that speak a little bit, English in Brazil, especially if you're in Rio or somebody a little more touristy. You will find a lot of English speakers, but still very important to have the little Portuguese. That makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah, it'll be part of your travel experience, and something that you get more in depth to the culture and the environment you're in.
True, very true, very true.
So, I'm going to say it one more time, or maybe one more time. Você fala inglês.
Perfect. That's
close
perfect.
enough, I think.
Você fala inglês. And then you can say, like we learned last week, no.
No.
Yes. Sim or
Sim.
no. So você fala inglês. And the other person will respond, sim, no, or will start speaking to you in English, right?
There you go. So that conversation, that question will be answered in a couple of different ways, and you'll quickly discover if you're in over your head or not, I guess.
That's true. That's true.
So next,
a quick Google Translate in your pocket.
There you go. That won't hurt you. That's good to have handy.
Right.
All right. Well, next week we have some key words, not so much phrases, but some key words that might help get you out of a pinch or help get you where you're going.
That's true. We'll see you next week.
All right. Obrigado. Muito obrigado, Claudio.
De nada.
All right. I want to thank Claudio for that, and he'll be on again next week, of course, and you can find all these little clips put together on our YouTube channel. If you want to check those out, it's really easy to do. Look for the Bjj Break YouTube channel. It's the only YouTube channel that has us on there, Gary.
Actually, well, I guess that's YouTube. I've been in some tube videos, but that's a little different.
Gary, it does not have any videos of Gary wearing a tube top.
I'd like to, though.
Yeah, but that video got banned. So, well, Gary and I are located in Wichita, Kansas. It's right in the middle of the country, in the middle of the United States anyway. If you're traveling through or you happen to be in Wichita, hit us up at our email, bjjbrick@gmail.com, or on our Facebook fan page, and we'll be happy to get on the mats with you, my friends.
Yeah, and maybe afterwards we could even share a Spam sandwich.
Yes, Gary, you're really pushing the spam. See what happened after this audiobook. Gary ended up with huge amounts of spam at his house. I mean, it's overflowing. So he's looking to give it away. He's looking to build something out of it and sell it. He's got spam everywhere. Gary, what's the weirdest place you have spam stored?
I'd have to say the weirdest place I have spam stored would be in my underground dungeon. I would have to say that's the strangest place. But the nice thing is, now all the people I have captured in there, I now can feed them. It doesn't cost me anything.
Man,
we'd like to thank our sponsor, Spam.
I've never even had spam before, Gary.
Me neither.
But I'm so glad that I didn't go in that door. You kept telling me, "Hey, Byron, go in there and get something out of that, door over there." and you seem weird about it, and I didn't want to do it. You really
you always
pressed me
looked
to
at me weird when I would try to get you to go in that door, and I'd say it puts lotion on its body.
It puts the lotion on its gi. It puts the with the fabric softener on its gi, or else it gets the hose.
Febreze. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Febreze.
Yes, we've got a lot of people to thank this week.
But thank you, Claudio, for another awesome segment.
Yep, absolutely. It's always good having him on. So anyway, guys, we'll check you out next week. As always, stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
The spam drive, Jiu-Jitsu and spam. Let me try this again because that didn't come out. That's not a very good title. Here's our English. Here is our Portuguese learned English. God.